Okay, let's unpack this. If you're constantly thinking, how to make things work better, faster, maybe with less friction, then today's deep dive is definitely for you. We're cutting through some of the complexity around business optimization. We're diving into lean thinking, and we're drawing our insights from James P. Womack's, really transformative book, Lean Thinking. Banish waste and create wealth in your corporation. It's a powerful approach. Really can redefine how you think about efficiency.
Absolutely. And our mission really for you today is to give you a genuine shortcut, a way to understand how to pinpoint and eliminate what's known as waste, or Muda, as it's called in Japanese, within any organization, really. And look, this isn't just about cutting costs. It's more fundamental. It's about increasing value, boosting productivity. We'll be exploring Womack's 5 core principles. Think of them as a blueprint for, radical efficiency.
Exactly. And it's not just for the C-suite or, corporate boardrooms. Whether you're strategizing for a big project, maybe trying to streamline your own workflow at home or work, or maybe you're just intensely curious about what makes these top-tier organizations tick, you'll find actionable insights here. We're aiming to go beyond just the basics, give you the most impactful takeaways on lean thinking. So let's kick off with the foundational problem lean thinking aims to solve: waste. A.C. Bradley, the Shakespearean scholar, he famously defined tragedy as waste, right? Lamenting all that immense potential lost. And here's where it gets really interesting. Womack takes this powerful concept and applies it directly to business. He labels it Muda. So what exactly falls under this Muda umbrella? I mean, beyond just obvious stuff like, leaving the lights on.
That's a fantastic analogy, actually, because Muda truly is tragic for an organization, and it's not vague. It includes anything that consumes resources, time, money, effort, without adding real value to the customer or the final product. So think about mistakes that need fixing, unnecessary processing steps, those frustrating waiting times between steps, overproduction. But Womack's fascinating insight here is that many organizations, they actually create their own Muda, often without even realizing it.
How so?
Well, they often prioritize internal goals, maybe departmental targets or even individual manager profits over the holistic value stream, the product's entire journey.
So it's not just accidental waste. It can be sort of designed into the system because of how companies are structured. That's quite a shift in perspective.
Precisely. That fragmented focus, it inevitably leads to systemic inefficiencies. And the elegant solution Womack proposes with lean thinking is, it sounds simple. Goods and services should only be produced upon customer demand. When you truly embrace that pull from the customer, you fundamentally eliminate the root causes of waste. And productivity just skyrockets.
Okay, so if Muda is the big problem, what's the actual blueprint for building that lean, efficient organization Womack envisions? He distills it into 5 powerful principles, doesn't he? Starting with maybe the most fundamental shift. They are: first, redefine value from the customer's view. Second, identify the value streams. Third, improve workflow, what he calls the flow approach. Fourth, adopt the customer pull approach. And finally, fifth, this idea of continuously striving for perfection.
These 5 principles, they really are a comprehensive roadmap. It's not just a checklist. And what's often overlooked, I think, is that they don't just dictate internal operations. They fundamentally reshape how an organization interacts with everyone: clients, suppliers, even its shareholders. It's really a unified philosophy for creating value and efficiency.
Okay, let's dive into that first principle then. Value is defined by the customer. Now, that sounds obvious, right? But Womack insists it's not abstract, it's concrete. What truly matters to them, their time, their money, the quality they perceive. But here's the kicker, the counterintuitive bit. Most companies think they know what their customers value. But Womack says, nope, they're often wrong. They're focusing on internal metrics, not the actual customer reality. Why is that shift in mindset so hard for companies?
It's incredibly difficult, I think, because it requires companies to, almost completely forget about their own interests for a moment and instead focus intensely, laser-like, on what genuinely makes their customers happy, or maybe not even happy, but what solves their problem effectively. The challenge is letting go of what you, the company, think is valuable or what you've always done and just truly listening. But, this customer-centric approach, it doesn't just benefit customers. It ends up creating a profoundly more efficient value stream, which ultimately benefits shareholders and managers too, because you stop wasting effort, stop wasting resources on things customers just don't care about. A really practical way to start seeing this, Womack suggests just walking down a supermarket aisle, look around. Which products seem genuinely designed to meet an immediate, concrete customer need versus just being, pushed onto the shelf by the manufacturer? It's quite revealing.
Right. Okay, so once you've genuinely tried to understand value from the customer's perspective, the next logical step Womack highlights is to actually see where that value gets created or lost. Which brings us neatly to principle 2, discovering your entire value stream. He uses this really vivid analogy, doesn't he? Imagine you're like a geographer dropped into an unexplored rainforest. You're observing every creature, every bit of terrain, trying to find the main water source. He says that's strikingly similar to a business's task of discovering its value stream. So what does that observation process actually involve? What are you looking for?
It literally means tracing the entire journey a product takes, the whole thing, from its very first concept, maybe a sketch on a napkin, through design, every single processing step, manufacturing, logistics, all the way to its launch and delivery to the customer. And you observe everyone involved: raw material suppliers, the people on the factory floor, truck drivers, managers, sales teams, and definitely the customers themselves. The goal is to define value very specifically in terms of specific products with specific capabilities, specific prices, and importantly, maintaining a dialogue with specific customers about it, which, raises a crucial question for any business listening. Are you really talking to your customers about what they need at each stage? Or are you just assuming?
That's a tough question.
It is. But the true insight here is that by meticulously mapping this journey, this value stream, you uncover countless hidden steps. Steps that consume time and resources but add zero value from the customer's perspective, Muda. And once you see them, you can eliminate them. The ultimate goal Womack describes is the lean enterprise, where different firms, suppliers, producers, distributors, they actively collaborate across the entire chain. They communicate openly, adopt lean thinking together. And interestingly, they start competing not just against rival companies, but against the ideal of perfection itself by constantly optimizing this flow.
That idea of flow is really powerful, and it leads us straight into principle 3, streamlining processes, adopting the flow approach. Womack argues this is incredibly important for productivity, especially compared to traditional methods like batch and queue, which he says actively hinder efficiency. Why is that?
Well, the traditional way often involves making big batches of things in one department, then letting them sit and wait before moving to the next department. Right?
Yeah, batching.
Exactly. Lots of waiting, lots of inventory piling up. The advantage of flow is clear. Consistent, continuous work on one product or a small batch, moving smoothly from start to finish. It's just far more efficient than these fragmented, departmentalized approaches where things get handed off and often delayed.
I get this. Here's the really surprising statistic from the source. Adopting these lean techniques, focusing on flow, can apparently reduce the human effort needed by as much as 3/4. 3/4. Without major capital investment in new machines or anything. How is that even possible? What does that process look like on the ground?
It sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? But it's documented. What's truly fascinating here, I think, is the sheer courage it takes. The willingness to break down established structures for the sake of efficiency. Because that dramatic improvement, that 75%, often requires a complete workflow overhaul. It can literally mean the demolition of traditional hierarchies, departmental walls, organizational silos, you name it.
Wow.
The insight is, when you remove those internal barriers and truly enable continuous flow, the sheer amount of wasted time waiting, handoffs, rework, inspections, it becomes shockingly apparent. And then you can eliminate it, often without needing fancy new technology, just rearranging how the work gets done. And crucially, immediate feedback is absolutely essential in lean thinking. It's not just about catching errors faster. It's used to motivate employees, connect them more closely with the final product and the customer. They see the direct, immediate impact of their improved work.
So it becomes self-reinforcing in a way.
Exactly. It's almost like, Womack suggests undergoing lean thinking is like trying to achieve perfection. It's impossible to truly attain it, right? But the journey itself, that relentless pursuit, is equally essential and hugely beneficial.
Okay, so you master flow, you get things moving smoothly. Principle 4 then creates this opportunity to make the customer an integral part of the whole thing. This is the customer pull approach. So instead of pushing products out based on forecasts, the customer is actually pulling them through the system. How does focusing on one product at a time or small batches allow that kind of tailoring and modification based on what customers actually want? Does it really eliminate the need for sales forecasts?
Well, maybe not entirely eliminate forecasts for long-term planning, but for immediate production, yes, largely. When you have that smooth flow, you can respond much faster. You don't need massive inventories. So you can make things closer to the actual time of customer demand. And you can allow for more customization. The outcome is incredibly compelling. You're giving customers exactly what they want, precisely when they want it, which means they don't need to shop around or consider alternatives as much. Think about that. It effectively reduces or even eliminates their propensity to choose from a pre-made inventory because you're making it for them. This can lead to unprecedented brand loyalty and organic growth, often far beyond what traditional marketing could achieve. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about truly becoming demand-driven rather than forecast-driven. You're not guessing what people might want 6 months down the line. You're responding rapidly to what they're actively asking for now.
That's a powerful shift. Which leads us to the final principle, principle 4, lean thinking perfection. Now, this isn't about reaching some static finish line, is it? It sounds more like continuous self-improvement, encouraging organizations to basically compete against themselves, constantly enhancing delivery speed, maybe diversifying customer reach, tirelessly striving for greater efficiency in every single aspect.
Absolutely. This is the really dynamic, ongoing part of lean thinking. You're never done being lean. And the core insight here, I think, is that perfection is, yes, an unreachable ideal. We know that. But the relentless pursuit of it is what drives continuous innovation and adaptation. It keeps you sharp. As customers become more vocal, as their demands evolve, as markets shift, organizations must maintain that swift flow and that strong, responsive value stream. A lean system, when it's working well, creates what Womack calls a perpetually self-improving system. But, and this is key, it requires constant evolution. Because, as he points out, what works today may not work tomorrow. It's an ongoing commitment, day in, day out, to becoming better than you were yesterday.
So the ultimate goal isn't just being efficient. It's achieving what Womack rather poetically calls unrivaled beauty in operations. And serving diverse customers with real excellence through that constant evolution. Okay, we've walked through the 5 principles. They make a lot of sense conceptually. But now, the critical question for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, I want some of this. How do you actually implement these powerful ideas? Womack says it requires a plan, definitely vigor, but also careful control. What are some of the practical nuts and bolts steps he outlines for building a truly lean enterprise?
Well, first things first, it starts with ample preparation. You can't just jump in. That means extensive research to truly define your value stream, map it out, and identify where lean thinking can be applied most effectively. He also strongly recommends getting a dedicated change agent. You need someone or a team who is deeply versed in the philosophy and the methodology to guide the transformation. It's not intuitive for everyone initially. And interestingly, Womack notes that often a crisis, a market shift, a competitor's move can present a prime opportunity. It creates urgency for lean application, demanding immediate action. And finally, you absolutely must demand results. Apply lean thinking rigorously to every single point in the value stream. Relentlessly seek out and eliminate Muda. No stone unturned.
That makes sense. Prepare, get help, maybe leverage a crisis, and be demanding. But what about the people side? Implementing such radical change, I mean, it often faces resistance, right? How do you manage that, especially if the process starts exposing, well, unnecessary jobs, as Womack puts it?
Yeah, that's critical. And what's fascinating here is the really delicate balance required. You need drastic structural change, yes, but also thoughtful employee management. So lean thinking for organizational change means streamlining, organizing your firm around product families, pointing those value streams directly at specific customer groups. Now, while this process might reveal inefficiencies or even roles that, frankly, no longer add value in the new system, Womack stresses it's paramount to assure workers their jobs are safe. The focus has to be on optimizing the system, improving the work, not eliminating people. That fear kills the whole initiative. You also need to continuously insist that employees themselves become active participants. They're the ones who see the waste firsthand. Empower them to make the organization even leaner. It takes tenacity, real commitment from leadership, but the payoff is significant, sustainable growth.
So it's definitely not just a top-down mandate then. It has to become part of the culture. How do you get everyone from, the factory floor to the executive suite to actually think lean?
Exactly. It's a mindset shift for everyone, and that requires training all employees, equipping them with the tools and the understanding to adopt a lean mentality. It demands really transparent communication about the goals, the progress, the why behind it all, and vigilance from everyone involved in that product's journey to maintain the focus on value and eliminating waste. It becomes everyone's responsibility. And finally, to really leverage leanness, Womack says you have to extend this focus outward to your suppliers and your customers too. Build dedicated teams, maybe. to promote lean practices up and down the supply chain. Educate these key stakeholders. Think about it. Suppliers using lean can reduce their own costs without necessarily compromising their prices, maybe passing savings along or improving quality. And customers, they can even participate more actively in the production or design process, contributing to a better understanding of their real needs. Think collaborative design, real-time feedback loops.
Right, co-creation almost.
Precisely. The result is that a truly lean organization ends up creating more value for all stakeholders involved. It's not a zero-sum game.
So wrapping this up then, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Ultimately, lean thinking offers a clear, actionable path. It's about optimizing your organization's performance, sure, but also really elevating customer satisfaction. By redefining value through the customer's eyes, meticulously identifying and streamlining those value streams, adopting that dynamic pull approach, businesses can just dramatically reduce waste, become incredibly responsive to what customers actually need.
And it genuinely fosters, I believe, more open communication, better collaborative problem solving between all the different players, suppliers, employees, customers. It accelerates the journey towards becoming a truly streamlined, purpose-driven, and highly efficient enterprise. By adopting these principles, your organization won't just be adapting to change, it can actually start to drive it, enabling you to compete not just against other businesses, but, as Womack compellingly suggests, competing against the very idea of perfection itself. It's that continuous pursuit of the ideal.
And just as a final thought to leave you with, consider just for a moment how applying even one of these principles in your own daily life could make a difference. Like truly thinking like your customers, maybe your family, your colleagues. What do they value from you? Or focusing on a single value stream for a specific task you do regularly. What steps could you eliminate? How could focusing on that help you eliminate your own personal Muda and maybe bring you just a little bit closer to your own version of perfection? What could you strip away to add more value to your own life?